Howdy, howdy do, Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And this is episode 310.
Yes.
One day, I shall come back. Yes, I shall come back. Until then, there must be no regrets, no tears, no anxieties. Just go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine.
Our lives are different to anybody else's. That's the exciting thing. Nobody in the universe can do what we're doing.
I've reversed the polarity of the neutron flow, so the TARDIS should be free of the force field now.
You may be a doctor, but I'm the doctor. The definite article, you might say.
The trouble with time travel is, one never seems to find the time.
Change, my dear, and it seems not a moment too soon.
Unlimited rice pudding, etc., etc.
I am the Doctor!
For now, for this moment, I am the Doctor again.
The ground beneath our feet is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. And the entire planet is hurtling around the sun at 67,000 miles an hour. And I can feel it. We're falling through space, you and me.
People assume that time is a strict progression of cause to effect. But actually, from a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
I could be a curator. I'd be great at curating. I'd be the great curator. I could retire and do that.
I'm the Doctor. I've lived for over 2,000 years, and not all of them were good. I've made many mistakes, and it's about time that I did something about that.
Bit of adrenaline, dash of outrage, and a hint of panic knitted my brain back together. I know exactly who I am. I'm the Doctor. Sorting out fair play throughout the universe.
Howdy, 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 howdy do, everybody. Welcome back to another week. It's episode 310. I hope you've all had a cracking week and that you've managed to do something Doctor Who related. Yes, indeedy. Before we kick off today's proceedings, I just want to say a very quick apology to everybody. My neighbours have decided to fire up arguably one of the loudest things in their garden. I think it's a pressure washer or a petrol-powered motor. I'm not sure, but you'll be able to hear that in the background. So I do apologise. They'll hopefully pack it in very shortly. So yeah, welcome to episode 310.
I've got visions of you going out there and wrapping it around their neck, like just getting so annoyed of it, like shut up.
Just leapfrogging over the fence.
Yeah, just snapping halfway through recording. Where's Gary gone? And just hearing a clunk and smash. Glass.
Yeah. Well, that's not far off reality. That could happen. So
I know.
Watch this. Yeah. So yeah, welcome to episode 310. It's been a crazy old week, defo, for Doctor Who. But those of you in the UK, I hope you've had a nice rested long weekend. We had a bank holiday here, so nice little cheeky little lay-in on a Monday, which is nice.
Yeah.
Those of you that have not had that in the UK, sucks to be you. But hopefully you'll get that whenever your country of origins holiday rolls around, whatever. But yes, so it's been a crazy week. Adam and I had a bit of a waffle before we started recording, and we're all aware of what's going on in the world of Doctor Who with a certain actor from Who, name beginning with N, surname C. We're not going to get into details on that stuff. We're all fully aware of what's going on, but this is, you know us by now. We're not the sort of podcast that's going to dive into all that negative stuff. Whatever's happening over there, that can happen over there. We're not going to comment on that stuff. But yeah, it's been a bit of a crazy week, dude. So we've got one bit of news to get through, which is not that stuff, something else to talk about. And otherwise, dude, how you been? You enjoyed your bank holiday weekend and whatnot?
Yes, not too bad. It's kind of thrown me the bank holiday though, because I feel like I'm a day behind now. So yeah, it's been good. Yeah, I had a nice bank holiday. You were going to start watching Line of Duty.
Mm.
Don't bother.
I
was so disappointed in the final, mate. I love that series. And no, I'm joking actually, because I still think it's a really cracking series. But obviously we had the final at the weekend, and I'm one of the millions that just sat there and was like, oh dear. So, but no, do watch it. It is a great series. But yeah, the final was really flat. None of the sort of spark or twist that we come to imagine. So that is funny actually how that has stayed with me all bank holiday weekend. It's funny, isn't it, when you get engrossed in a show? Like I was having my cereal yesterday and I was still thinking about it, still thinking, God, I can't believe it went out like a damp squid like that. Anyway, but apart from that, I've had a pretty cool weekend. Although, oh dear, another bit of sort of down in the dumps news. Me and Maria, our writer Maria, we're not happy. We are not happy.
What's happened?
Well, we both tried to get tickets to the Dragonfire BFI screening, and it's sold out like within seconds. I mean, Maria's a member, so she actually got a head start on me, and even she didn't get a ticket. I didn't renew my membership because last time I had trouble getting a ticket even though I was a member, and I just can't afford it at the minute. So yeah, I'm really gutted. Haven't managed to get a ticket to the Dragonfire, dude. And I hate to miss out on those BFI events, so I'm a little bit down about that. I might just go to the bar anywhere and get smashed and just pretend.
Why not?
Just shout abuse at those that did get to go. I enjoyed it, did you? Oh, I did like some drunken idiot at the bar, dressed as the Seventh Doctor.
Oh, mate, yeah, no, Maria did say that in the Discord server that tickets are all sold out and stuff, and I immediately thought of you and some of our other Who fans, that regulars that go to those events, and thought, oh, I hope everybody managed to get a ticket. But I can only assume that they've reduced capacity to keep some distancing and stuff, right? Yeah. So it's even more difficult than usual to get the ticket. So bit of a bummer.
That's exactly it. Yeah, Maria just messaged me literally before we kicked off recording. That's exactly it, mate. My friend is sat in one seat and his partner's like 4 seats along because you're allowed to buy up to 2 tickets, I think. So, yeah, it's a shame. The person I'm really gutted for is Adam, our friend Adam, the ultimate Whovian, because he loves Dragonfire. He blimmin' loves Dragon. I know he was so pleased when they announced it. And I don't know. Who knows? Maybe he'll be lucky enough to get a ticket at some point. Maybe someone will drop out. But, yes, that's bad news. So there'll be no Big Blue Box podcast report from BFI. Unless we get one. You never know. It's a couple of weeks away. We might be lucky. Maybe. I'll just be constantly refreshing for the next 3 weeks, constantly.
Yeah, they often release a few of them where people have cancelled and whatnot, so you never know.
It does happen. Yeah, it does happen. Yeah, I remember seeing a seat pop up for Talons, just really randomly. I was on a bus, like just as you do, just sort of check the website. I'll just refresh it, and a seat come up just like that, just one seat. So it's worth doing. Yeah.
Yes, defo.
But apart from that, mate, I've not done a lot this week. Yeah, it's been a quiet week.
Yeah, same for me, dude. Bit of a quiet one.
Yeah.
Bit of a quiet one for sure. So before we crack on with the news, remember to follow and or subscribe, whatever word you want to use. All the podcast apps are changing up at the minute, but follow, subscribe, whatever podcast app you get your podcasts on, you can listen to us for free. We have a new show that lands every single Friday, so get on that. That way you won't miss a show when it drops on the Friday. Head over to the website, bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can listen to all the shows on there as well. And we also have our really cool reviews and articles that go out from our writing team, Maria, Mark and Jordan. So check those out as well. We are on the socials, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. There are links on the website, or do a search for the Big Blue Box Podcast. You'll find us on there. Come and give us a like and a follow. We chat Doctor Who throughout the week. So come and do that. And we also have a free Discord server as well. Again, there's a link on the website. Sign up to that. It takes like 20, 30 seconds. And there's a very, very cool community of Who fans that we have around our Discord that chat Doctor Who. It's a really cool, chilled, safe place to come and chat Doctor Who. There's no foolishness there. There's no idiots knocking around. It's all nice and cool chat. So I really love our Discord members. They're all very cool. So come and do that. And also, while we're talking about online-y stuff, remember to go and check out my co-host channel over on YouTube. It is, in fact, called The Geek's Handbag.
The Geek's Handbag, yes. Going to have a look at some vids that I've done over the years and quite recently as well. Yep. And I'm on all the socials.
Indeedy.
Yes, indeed.
Right, let's get this bit of news out of the way, dude. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Here we go. It's one of those weeks where we have one bit of news, and unfortunately that news is sad news. So I hate doing this, but Frank Cox the TV director from back in the day who directed some of the early Doctor Who stuff has sadly left us. He passes away at the age of 80. Now, Frank, he was involved in some really early stuff on Doctor Who. He was he actually came through the ranks from like the early, so when the BBC started doing their training programs for producers and directors and stuff like that, he went through the directors program, trained up at the BBC, and then they put him to work straight away. And one of his early tasks was The Brink of Disaster, which was part 2 of The Edge of Destruction, and then returned and went on to look at the final 2 episodes of The Censorites, which is one that we reviewed relatively recently in the last couple of months. And then after that went on to do a combination of producing and directing through the 80s and 90s and stuff, and worked on stuff like EastEnders and Task Force, Sutherland's Law, all those sort of early mid 80s to mid 90s stuff. And then his last directorial credit was for Taggart, which is a detective show that was out in the late 90s, I think. And so very sad news, dude. Frank Cox leaves us at the age of 80. So yeah, sucks to report it, but worked on a couple of bangers though in the early Doctor Who days.
Definitely, mate. Yeah, and his wife apparently appeared in Gridlock, playing the character Alice Cassini.
Oh, Cassini, yeah.
Yeah. So she died in 2014. Yeah, sad news. Frank Cox, 80 years old.
Indeedy, yes. So that's the sad news out of the way, but we're going to be looking up now as we get into our review. We're back to Modern Who, dude. Dude, what are we reviewing? Tell me.
Yeah, tell me. Well, it's the 11th Doctor story, The 11th Hour.
I'm a doctor. I'm a time traveller.
Did you come about the crack of my wall?
2 parts of space and time that should never have touched.
Amelia Pond, you're the little girl.
I'm Amelia, and you're late.
What happened?
12 years.
Prisoner Zero will vacate the human residence. All the human residents will be incinerated.
What's happening in the sky is real, and if you don't let me go right now, everything you've ever known is over.
I don't believe you.
20 minutes, the planet burns. Run to your loved ones and say goodbye, or stay and help me.
What do we do?
Little Amelia Pond, waiting for her magic doctor to return, but not this time, Amelia.
Wowzers. Murray, absolutely going for it there.
Yeah, Murray Gold earning his wages that week.
Yeah.
Yes, right. The 11th Hour. It was first broadcast back on the 3rd of April 2010. Just missing the hoo-ha of this being a potential April Fool's joke. But fortunately it wasn't. Slightly longer runtime for this one. Just over an hour. It was written by the Mothbag, directed by Adam Smith, stars Matt Smith, obviously, as the new Doctor at that time, Karen Gillan as Amy Pond, and Arthur Darvill as Rory, the unbeknownst to them, the new companions of the time. And the synopsis for this one is, after a literally explosive regeneration, the brand new 11th Doctor survives a crash landing to Earth. However, he has a little time to recover with a mysterious crack in a little girl's wall and a missing alien prisoner. The Doctor is in for an adventure. However, with the TARDIS damaged and the sonic screwdriver destroyed, can the Doctor capture the rogue alien before its jailers burn Earth to a crisp?
That's got Moffat written all over that synopsis, isn't it?
Yeah, hasn't it? Yeah. Okay, dude. The 11th Hour. We've spoken about this one on and off for years on the podcast. We always come back to this one when we're talking about Matt Smith and so on. So now's our opportunity to put a score on this bad boy. So what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are it's great. It's it's such a cracking introduction for Matt's Doctor. Hands off to Moffat. He delivers a really sharp, fun, action-packed script. It's weird. You just mentioned it's over an hour. I didn't realise. I rewatched this last night. Didn't occur to me that it was like an extended episode because I was just loving it. I've got to be honest. I've watched this a few times over the years, but haven't watched it since. So me and you did a commentary for this, didn't we? A few years back. We did like a commentary track for it. That's probably the last time I watched it. And I was slightly worried that, maybe I was looking back with rose-tinted glasses in my mind. I thought, I'm going to watch it again just to make some notes, even though I know the story really well. And I thought, I hope when I watch this with my Wurzel's review head on, that I don't sort of see faults in it. Because, it's one thing watching something for enjoyment. It's another to sit down and watch it to review. And so I was slightly worried that it wasn't going to be as good as I remembered or anything like that. But actually, it stands up incredibly well. You can tell that Moffat has come in and put his stamp on it. I mean, the whole production just looks brilliant. Well, maybe there's a couple of dodgy CGI, but in terms of like the way the scenes are lit, so like the opening shots in Amy's garden and all there's like this yellow and blue smoke, the colours and the windmill spinning around. It looks absolutely fantastic. It's almost like a feature film in terms of the style of this episode. It's a beautiful looking episode, but yeah, the script as well is really pin sharp. It's funny. Matt is superb in it. He absolutely hits the ground running. All the actors are good in it. Even the young Amelia Pond, because you get a young actor. She's given quite a lot to do at the start as well. You get the wrong actor in that part and they're going to be cringy, and it's just going to sort of throw the whole thing off a little bit. She's brilliant as well. Her and Matt, work really well together. Yeah, everything just works for me. And we just mentioned Murray Gold. Now, he's been there since the show came back in 2005, delivered some great music, but even Murray seems to have just decided to up the ante. He's like flip, he's not doing the same stuff he did for David's Doctor. The music in this is absolutely beautiful. And although we all got sick of I Am the Doctor, it was fresh and new when this first hit the screens, and it's a great theme. But it's not just that. I mean, the music that's playing when Matt meets Amelia Pond in the garden, the piano, it's absolutely brilliant. And it is totally different from what Murray's done before. So not only has Moffat come in and given it a brand new look, and it looks fantastic, he's delivered a great script. We've got a new Doctor. We've got a cast who are absolutely on fire. Everybody seems to be working to make this show, lift it to the next level, which is what they needed to do, because let's face it, David Tennant was a hard act to follow. He was incredibly popular. Like, he was really loved as the Doctor. So they've got to do something to keep the audience on board. And I think they really lifted the show to a next level, which is no easy feat. So it's a belter. It's a belter. And I'm glad it stood up to how I remembered it as well. It didn't disappoint rewatching this yesterday. I loved it from start to finish. Really, really enjoyed it. And the jokes still made me laugh. You know what I mean? The little gags, there's so many great one-liners in it that you might think, on the fifth or sixth watch, you'd be like, oh dear, yeah, Raggedy Man, all that again. They're still making me laugh, all the stuff that Matt comes out with, and, delete your internet history, and you cheeky devil to Patrick Moore. All these little gags are still funny, and that's a sign of a good script, I think. So it's a winner for me. I could praise it to the hill. It's a near perfect episode. I think it's great. Over to Yo.
Yeah.
I know you love it. Shut up.
Yeah, dude, this is, like you said, this is near perfect, isn't it, Doctor Who?
It's brilliant.
Yeah,
it's absolutely brilliant.
Absolutely love this one. And a yardstick for me from a personal level is if my wife walks into the room and she sees that I'm watching Doctor Who, if she sits down and watches it, then that's a sign of a good episode of Who from a non kind of, not going to say hardcore fan, you know what I mean though, from a person that really, really loves Doctor Who like us versus just a casual viewer like my wife. She watched it from start to finish.
Really?
Yeah. She sat down, she watched it. Yeah. And she said afterwards, she's like, I'm not a huge fan of Matt Smith. He's not my go-to as the Doctor. However, she said she really likes him in that one, in this one. So yeah, that's a good yardstick from a casual viewer perspective. But dude, it's just a solid, thoroughly enjoyable, just awesome bit of Doctor Who. I mean, you would never have thought that with making so many huge changes at the time that they would have pulled it off like from episode 1 just straight out the gate. It would have, because you would have thought that with so many changes, like showrunner and lead actor, and the production side of things, and then the new logo, the new theme. Like you can tell that Moff went to Murray Gold and said, "Look, loved your work so far, but we need to do something different for this era." And you would have thought that on paper, like, "Whoa, this is a big old shift. So it's going to take us a few episodes to find our feet," like a lot of shows do. But no, it's like straight away, episode 1. It's like, boom, everything's just rocking and rolling in place. It's remarkable, really, how they pulled that off, because on some shows, when it comes back for series, whatever number you want to put in there, it's like, it's either a case of, that was amazing, or it's like, I'm not really feeling it yet. And then you get a few episodes in, you're like, okay, now I'm starting to get into it. But no, this was amazing. And just Matt Smith, I know we say it about a lot of actors who have played the Doctor, that the BBC do generally cast that role very well, and whoever plays the Doctor typically gets out the trap really well. But Matt Smith is, I don't know, he's just it's incredible to me, really, how he could, being such a young actor as well, not being as experienced as some of the actors who have taken on the role previously. He's just crashed into it with absolutely no fear, and absolutely just embraced it, and just immediately not emulating any other Doctors, just completely owning that from day one. It's amazing, dude, and I love it. And and the direction is very cool. Like you said, it looks fantastic for the most part. The direction is really good. Murray's music is just hitting the mark in every scene, it feels like.
Beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, and although we do say, like you said, that theme, "I Am the Doctor," is overplayed throughout Moffat's era, you can't deny it's a cracking... It really gets you going, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So although it's used for a lot of running down corridors and a lot of, right, there's an action scene coming up, now we're going to cue the music, it's a bit like the A-Team. You can't deny that it does get you pumped up, and it does get you into the story and stuff. So I'm a huge fan of this one, dude. Massive. It's just a joy to watch. I didn't reach for my phone, didn't go on the socials when felt like it was dipping and I was bored for any reason. It was just, yeah, man, it was just awesome. And there is one not cool, but there's an interesting series of versions of this story that have done the rounds over the years. I'm not sure if you're aware, but... because I didn't know this, but apparently there's 4 different versions of this story knocking around.
Is there? No?
Yeah, so the first version is the one that was just broadcast initially, the very first one that was back in 2010. And it's also the same one that's on BBC iPlayer currently, or Netflix when it was on Netflix in the UK. And also on the 2010 version of the DVD, or the 2020 version of the Steelbook Blu-ray release. That's a 65 minutes full on whatever. The second version, which was seen on the complete 5th series DVD and Blu-ray in 2010, it's got a different logo. So they don't use the standard BBC logo. For some reason, it's the BBC Worldwide. And it's the logo that's when the TARDIS is zipping above London at the beginning.
Yeah,
it's on that. And it also contains a few little tiny changes here and there. So they take away, for some reason, the thunder and lightning sound effect during the opening titles, for some reason.
Right.
It's got an additional fire effect around the TARDIS as the logo appears and so on. And some other bits in the closing title. And then the third version, very similar to the one I've just mentioned, but again, a different logo, replaces the Doctor Who DW logo that looks like the TARDIS with a different one. And it's also got a slightly different runtime. And then the fourth one is the BBC America version, which they had to trim down and cut to fit 60 minutes plus adverts. And for that one, it takes away the trailers and stuff like that. They also take away the Prisoner Zero Silence Will Fall scene at the end. Ooh. And they also take away some of the flashbacks that were incorporated when they talk about stuff that's coming up in Impossible Astronaut and the Pandorica stuff. And that edit has just remained now. So anytime that's on BBC America or any other country, they play that shorter version. So it's
shame.
So it's weird, isn't it, that they've got 4 versions of the same episode when they didn't need to? Because I can understand the BBC America one. Like if you need to trim it down to fit a specific runtime in that country, plus adverts are like really more. They're a lot more often in US, aren't they? But the other ones where they're just tweaking and messing around with the logo, depending on when you've bought the DVD or the Blu-ray stuff, that seems a bit bizarre. But it's just weird. It's only this one from the series as well that they tinker with. It's a bit weird.
How odd is that? Like Moffat doing a George Lucas, just sat there restless? I wanted to change this, and I don't know, why would they do that? That does seem really, and I didn't know that at all. It's while we're talking about the intro, it's funny because I've never been a big fan of the intro for Matt's era. Really, I don't really, I like the David's intro with the sort of time tunnel, but I was never really a fan of any of Matt's intros really. And this one with all the lightning and stuff, it never really, I don't hate it or dislike it, but I never liked it particularly. But it seems to have drifted into the realms of nostalgia, because watching it yesterday, I got a bit of a sort of warm, this intro feeling. And I thought, it's gone into that. It's gone into that phase. It's now the sort of, although I don't like it, it's like the sort of, I like it because it's nostalgic, and it takes me back to when I first saw it, if you know what I mean. So it's now slipped into that. So I've kind of got a nostalgic liking for it now, but it's never been one of my favourite intros. I think it's the lightning and stuff. I don't quite get it. The sort of DW forming the TARDIS, I don't know, it never really clicked with me. But yeah, I don't know. Watching it yesterday, I did get. In fact, watching this whole episode yesterday, I got a huge sense of nostalgia. It just took me back to when Matt took over, and I knew hardly anything about him as an actor when he was announced. I don't think a lot of people did, and he looked really young, and I had no idea what his Doctor was going to be like. But all I know is that I warmed to him almost immediately when I first watched this. And by the time the episode finished, I really thought, wow, I like this new Doctor. He's like full of energy. And he's able to do that brilliant thing of switching between being comedic and fun to very serious in a flash. I mean, David was good at that. But if anything, I think Matt's even better. He's just really good at switching from the sort of fun comedy to I'm the Doctor and this Earth is protected. Suddenly it's like, whoa, So for a young chap to just come in, and it must have been daunting for him to follow in David's footsteps, wasn't it? The show was absolutely at its peak with David, wasn't it? It was really popular, getting massive figures. Matt is this young chap who's coming in, and I don't know, we all know that I think he watched a couple of Troughton episodes as preparation, but I don't know what was going on in his head, if he knew how he was going to play it, or if he just followed his instincts, or what. But whatever he did, or however he decided to tackle the role, he really hit gold. I mean, he absolutely, for me, to be honest, he's the perfect Doctor. I believe he's alien. I believe he's fun, and I believe that when he says, I'll be back and I'm going to save the universe in 70 minutes, he's got conviction in his voice. I just think he's absolutely one of my favourite Doctors, because he is so what I imagine the Doctor to be. I just love him, and the look and everything as well. I know they went through a million different versions of the costume to see what suited his Doctor, and I think he had this idea of the checkered jacket and bow tie, and it's absolutely right. I mean, that scene at the end when he's talking to the big eyeball and he's slowly getting dressed, it's a real moment. Again, when I watch this, it's those scenes that I look forward to watching again and again, when he steps through the sort of hologram and he's in full costume and he's like, I am the Doctor. It's just such a great moment, and he delivers it brilliantly. So, but yeah, there's a nostalgia to this as well, and it's not the reason I love it, because I'm looking at it through rose-tinted glasses. It is great. It is a good script, and I think if anybody's sort of thinking, well, it's not all that, it's not all that, I'm looking at it as an introductory story to a Doctor. I think it's probably one of the best. I'm looking at it in terms of, is it a fun watch? Yes, it's brilliant. The monster may be a slight letdown, if you want to be picky, if you're thinking that perhaps we're exaggerating how good it is. You might be thinking, well, the monster's not very good in it. I think for a regeneration story and an introduction to the new cast, like Rory and Amy, the way that they are brought into the story is really well done. That when I say it's a good story, I'm talking about things like that. And I don't think Prisoner Zero is a particularly weak villain. I think it's quite cool that it's in hiding and it keeps taking these different forms. Like when it turns into the man and the dog, it doesn't quite get it doesn't quite get it right. So the man is barking instead of the dog. I think that's a great fun idea. And I like the idea that a monster can turn into 2 or 3 different things, like the Olivia Colman character with the 2 kids, but that being one alien pretending to be 3 things is interesting. I don't think we've really seen that done before. So that's, all that stuff I think is really, really good.
No, I agree, dude. Yeah, I love all that. There's some great stuff in there, isn't there? Lots
of great stuff.
Yeah. What did you think to so Patient Zero is a fairly okay. I think the concept of Patient Zero is better than what we saw on screen, although it's not terrible. Yeah. It's not terrible. It just ended up being like a slimy, sort of sea snaky kind of thing, which is not bad. It's not terrible. It's kind of cool, but it's really frightening though. And I love the way that the perception filter and all that stuff. I love how they did that in the episode, where instead of just having some techno babble about what a perception filter is, they went down the more sort of suspenseful horror kind of treatment with it, where the doctor's like, just look out the corner of your eye where you don't want to look. And then when the penny drops and Amy does it and she can see the door, that whole build up to seeing Patient Zero, that was very cool. And then he says it again, doesn't he, sort of towards the end when she's unconscious, and he's like, dream about, Patient Zero and stuff like that. So that how they treated that along with the perception filter stuff was very, very cool. I love that stuff because I get the feeling that in the Chibbers era, we would have had the Doctor explaining the perception filter to the companions for the sake of the viewer and having like a 5-minute scene around perception filters. Oh, I saw one of them once. It was, we did this and we did that. And, we'd have all of this exposition around what it is. And instead of doing that, Moffat's like, well, actually, let's just do it more of let's treat it more as this kind of suspenseful little thing that we know that kids are going to do on the sofa when they watch it. They're going to start looking out the side of their eye, and all that sort of stuff. It's really cool stuff. And what did you think to the bits of the story that now that we've gone back and watched it, we obviously know about the thing where Moffat was a big fan of doing the story arc that spanned across the series and stuff. So the obvious one being the crack in the wall, which ultimately ended up spanning a lot more than Series 5. But then we had other things like Patient Zero mentioning the silence and silence will fall and all that stuff. At the time, you probably would have scratched your head a little bit and thought, oh yeah, what's this all about then? But now we've gone back with the luxury of time and we know what's coming. Do you still think that's a cool thing? Because we didn't have as much of that. We had it to a degree with Russell's era, but not quite as much, where Moff was a big fan of it. Did you like that stuff about the silence and whatnot, and the crack in the wall?
I must admit I did. I'd forgotten how much of it there is in there, actually. They do throw in quite a lot, don't they, of these one little lines that actually become relevant much further in the series, which I suppose at the time you wouldn't have known. So Silence Will Fall, you might have thought, what's that about then? But you didn't know it was going to be such a big deal. I think actually now I think about it, I may have been slightly disappointed the crack in the wall wasn't explained. I quite like things to be tied up fairly quickly. I may have been, I can't remember now. I may have been slightly disappointed that wasn't resolved for such a long time. Because I think that does go on a bit, doesn't it, from what I remember?
Yeah, doesn't it end up being it's Gallifrey.
It's Gallifrey, is it?
Or the Time Lords or something like that, because they bung him a whole fresh set of regens, don't they? Through the crack.
Of course.
Clara's like, if you love him, then help him, sort of thing. And yeah, isn't it like a parallel? No, something I can't remember. Something about beyond the crack. There's like another universe or whatever dimension. I can't remember.
Something like that. But I mean, if you look at this episode, I mean, all these little things that Moffat's throwing in, I'm not going to. Yeah, I did enjoy it, and I'm not going to take anything away from him because to me, it's just brimming with ideas. You can tell that Moffat's like just got all this stuff that he wants to get out, and they're really good ideas as well. Cracking the wall, that's two sort of timelines that are fractured or whatever it is, there's great stuff, and all this perception filter and the silence will fall, prisoners there. It's brimming with fresh ideas. The monster that can emulate different, a person and two kids, and there's just so many clever ideas from Moffat, all in this one story that will sort of eventually become the bigger picture. So I'm not going to say anything great, because this is one thing I like about Moffat, is that he does come up with some really good ideas. It may not always pull them off to the extent that I think perhaps he could have done. They may not always pan out as well as they could have done, but at least he had some ideas. And I'm not going to go on a Chibnall bashing thing, but if you compare it to sort of Chibnall, I mean, he just doesn't seem to have any originality that I feel when I watch something like an episode like this. Mm-hmm. It's got loads of stuff going on that's new and fresh and exciting, and at the time, you're thinking, what's that going to be then? What's that about? It's intriguing stuff, and I think it's really well written by Moffat, I have to say.
Here's a refresher for you. So the crack in the wall, it was a time field, which is a body of energy that spilled from the cracks in the fabric of time and space. The cracks were created by the silence when they blew up the Doctor's TARDIS on the 26th of June 2010, apparently, as a means of preventing the Doctor from reaching Trenzalore and answering the Time Lord's message, which was sent through the very same cracks the silence created when they blew up the TARDIS.
I'd love to know at what point in Moffat's mind that all came out. Like, surely he didn't have that all in his head when he wrote this. He can't have.
Sure. I don't know. It's kind of, maybe he got lucky and was like, all right, okay, we need to wrap this up for the time of the Doctor. Let's use the crack in the wall thing, the time field. We'll get lucky with that. But I don't know, maybe he's like 3 or 4 bottles of wine down and he's got a load of notes all over the table. And he's like, actually, in my drunken state, I've actually created a belter of an era arc, not just a series arc, but who knows? It's the Moff in it.
Just before we move off Moffat, actually, I've got to give him another credit as well for taking a chance with Matt. Really young actor, isn't he? Who hadn't done much work at that point. For Moffat to take a punt on him like this, he must have seen, in Matt's what do you call it? Not rehearsal. Matt's audition. He must have seen the magic that Matt had. So hats off to him for that as well, for casting Matt and taking a chance on someone. And I'm sure at the time, I don't think we were as socially aggressive as Doctor Who fans as we are now. I'm not sure, but I'm sure at the time there were people who would have been saying, "God, he's far too young. He can't be the Doctor." And I would hope they ate their words when they got to see the performance. He is one of those people as well that's got this sort of, he is a young guy, but he's got like an old face. It's sort of, I don't know, there is something about him, isn't there? That he could be an old man trapped in a young man's body, sort of thing.
Yeah, he's got like that good mix of like Troughton-y kind of energy and kind of quirkiness mixed with like an old soul. Like you can tell that he's wise of the world and the universe and stuff, but he's still got that sort of like you've tightened the spring up and now he's off. He's got loads of energy because he's like, how old was he? I can't remember how old he was when he did this. He was very young, but
I can't remember. He was. Yeah. No, I'm not sure.
Yeah, he's only got loads of energy, but I don't know. He's also got this wise sort of vibe about him when he wants to. So when he gets excited, when he's especially in the first third, I would say, of the story, where he's finding his feet post regeneration, especially the scene where he's going through all the different foods with Amelia, and that's all quite funny. And then and then he buggers off, and then he comes back, and he's always into it. And then there are little pockets as you go through the story where he's also like that, but there are other scenes where he does have that kind of old wise man feel about him. Like when he says to Amy, who she still, I think she's fairly sold on it is the Doctor, this person that they all said she was crazy, that she couldn't see. But she's still not 100% quite sure. So he does this very reassuring thing, like, just give me 20 minutes, just believe me for 20 minutes, and then everything will be cool. I'll save the planet, sort of thing. So there's little moments like that where he's very, you can tell that he's a very old alien. And like you said earlier, he does come across as quite alien at times, and not necessarily like, I don't know, like Davison's Doctor or Tennant's Doctor, even to a degree. He can tell he's very, very alien, which is cool.
That's what I love, actually, because we know that he said he went back and went back and watched some of Troughton's episode to get a feel for the show and whatever. But I never ever, because he does get compared to Troughton, but I never ever look at Matt and think, oh, he's trying to be Troughton there. He's trying to copy Troughton there. He's taken the essence of the Doctor, and he obviously liked Troughton's sort of, young sort of comedic style that he had, the sort of childlike side of Troughton. But he hasn't copied it or tried to be like Troughton, has he? He's absolutely sort of put his own stamp on his Doctor. I think that's what I love about Matt. Is he feels like he could have elements of the other Doctors, but he's his own Doctor at the same time. And you just mentioned the fact that the Raggedy Man, that's one of the things, sort of a recurring joke in this episode, which still I think works really well, is that every time Amy introduces him to someone, like the old woman from One Foot in the Grave, and the young chap with the laptop, and Rory, when Rory first sees him, like there's this sort of moment where they just stand and look at the Doctor, and you're thinking, what are they looking at? And they're like, you're him, aren't you? You're the blimmin' Raggedy Doctor. You're real, and they can't believe it, because obviously Amy, although we haven't seen it, has been banging on about him for years to all these different people, and now they're actually getting to see that, oh, she wasn't mad, he is actually real. So that's a nice little recurring joke. I think everybody she introduces him to is like, oh, it's actually him.
That was cool, yeah. And I thought they used that right up until, I think, even like Amy's last words to him when he regenerates Matt. When she comes down the steps of the TARDIS and she just says Raggedy Man, something. It's, oh, it's really sad, actually. So they use that, don't they, a few times. And I'm sure they mention it just every now and then throughout Matt's era. They either mention the madman with the box or Raggedy Man. Pretty sure that they reference definitely. It. Yeah, it's very cool, actually, because... and it's actually a really cool visual thing as well, because he's wearing David Tennant's costume, but it's just like wrecked, isn't it? And ripped. And all the rest of it. It's really cool.
And the Sonic gets blown up. Actually, it's funny because one thing that's always slightly irked me about because I really liked Series 5, and I really like Matt's era, but, I will agree with a lot of people that I didn't like the Amy flirting with the Doctor over Rory and all that sort of stuff, that she's so sort of in love with the Doctor and all this sort of thing. Watching this again yesterday, I think I understand it a little bit more, because I don't like it, but I'm guessing she, after experiencing sort of meeting him like that as a young kid, and that wonderment, that sort of fascination of this crazy character that's dropped into Earth and is going to take her around, time and space, and she waits forever. It's such a sad little scene when young Amelia packs her case and she's just sat there waiting. It's so sad. But so then, Amy probably would obsess about, some of this sort of time alien has landed in your garden. You would get a bit obsessive, wouldn't you? She's made all these sort of, dolls and figures of the Doctor over the years. And so although I'm not sort of excusing some of the sort of stuff, I mean, I always hate that bit when Amy pounces on the Doctor at the end of whatever episode it is, but I kind of understand a little bit more why Amy might be a bit in awe, borderline obsessed with the Doctor.
Okay, yeah.
To be honest, yeah. If you know what I mean. Whereas before I've kind of just brushed off of, oh, Amy, leave him alone. Like, you've got Rory, just get over it, sort of thing. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I understood it a little bit more watching this yesterday. I still don't like it much though.
No, I read you, mate.
Because I like Rory so much, and even in this, he's great as straight away, isn't he? He's absolutely got his character nailed.
Yeah, the kind of
Arthur Darvill.
Yeah, the sort of scared out of his wits at everything. Doesn't understand why they're running towards danger. That kind of. All of them, yeah, the principal cast, they've all got their characters just dialed in straight away. There's no warm up period. And the thing you mentioned about Amy is interesting because we had all of that with Rose. Do you remember where she was just all over David Tennant's Doctor? And then I think the difference is though, and both of them I don't really like too much, but I think the difference is with Rose, that was more of she kind of fell for him very quickly, and you see that throughout the periods where Rose is in it, and especially that culminating scene on the beach, for example, and the Doctor's TARDIS, the sun that he's draining to send the message just stops, and was he going to say he loves her back? Was he going to say it?
There's one more time, to say it.
So I think that was more around. I think Russell T Davies was more just trying to do a love story for the companion in that era. But with this one, and I think the Moff does do this a little bit, he does kind of get a little bit flirty, a little bit sort of, because he does it a lot with River and Matt's Doctor, where she comes out with some, I wouldn't say they're sort of risque one-liners, but the flirtiness, it does get a little bit close, to being a bit adult. And I think they did that stuff with Amy at various points as well. Not so much in this first one. The only bit was when he's getting undressed in the hospital, and Rory's like, "You're not going to turn your back," and she's no shame about it. She's like, "Nope." So that's kind of all right. You think, a new guy's just come back into her life. Rory's not, how do we say it?
Setting her world on fire.
Exactly, yeah. He's lovely, Rory, of course he is. But, and it's really cool, actually, how they transition throughout the Pons era, how they transition from her being very much into the Doctor sexually. You can tell that's a thing. And then as we get to the end of it, she's more like, she's completely 100% in love with Rory. Nothing's ever going to, break those two apart.
Yeah.
But it took a while to get to that point, though. And one of the things that my wife said actually yesterday when we were talking about it afterwards, and we were talking about companions, and we were saying that we both agree that Donna is probably the best, our favourite companion, because there isn't any of that silliness with falling for each other.
She's having none of it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And she did say that she doesn't really like Amy for that very reason.
I'm laughing because I can just hear Donna saying, "You want a mate? You ain't mating with me, spaceman." Donna was just having none of it. Basically.
No.
Yeah.
So I can see what you mean, mate. Yeah, you can understand why from a perspective, but fortunately it's not too bad in this episode. But then she does turn into a little bit of the way that she treats Rory in some episodes moving forward is a little bit like they really push that. They really push the whole. What's the phrase? I don't know. But anyway, like with Rory, you can tell that he's just besotted with her and do anything for her. Whereas you get the feeling that she's not really feeling that same back to him at some points. And that's what I mean. It takes a long while towards the end of their era as the Pons for us to realise that actually, she'll go to her death for Rory. She loves him. But in the early days, it just took a while.
Yeah, it does make for a good arc. I suppose that's what I'm saying is a lot of Moffat stuff can be rewarding when you rewatch it. But it certainly sometimes takes a while to get there. You said about the adult side, the adult tone to Moffat, some of Moffat's writing, and I think it's definitely there, and I think it can be a little close to knuckles. So how did you feel about Amy being a kissogram? Because obviously, in the promo shots and everything leading up to this, we'd seen, she was a policewoman, and then we thought, oh, that's a very strong, female lead police officer, which, of course, we now have with Yasmin Khan. So that's the Chibbers, I guess, correcting that. Do you think it was a bit of a, I don't know, is that sort of dated badly? Do you think having Amy as a kissogram? I'm just going to say quickly, it wasn't as bad as I remember, because I thought I was going to be really cringing at some of the kissogram stuff. But when she's that little joke between the one foot in the grave woman, sorry, I can't remember her name, Annette Crosby, isn't it? when she's saying, "Oh, yeah, weren't you a nurse the other week?" And I must admit, I thought it was quite funny. It wasn't quite as cringy as I remembered it being, but I still think it's a bit unnecessary. I don't know. It does make for a good twist because you think she's a policewoman and she's calling for backup, and then it's revealed that actually she's not at all. She's just got the outfit. So it does make for a fun twist, but is it distasteful or dated having her as a Chrisogram, do you think?
I don't think it's distasteful, no. I think it's just more unrealistic for me. Yeah, because you can kind of see it, because the character of Amy, you can tell that she's just this fiery sort of person, but she lives in a very quiet, tiny little village.
Yeah.
So that probably suits her character, where she just doesn't want to fold into normal life and just, take a job in the village somewhere. She doesn't want to do that. But at the same time, it doesn't strike me as a sort of place that has loads of like stag parties and all that sort of thing, where she can make some decent money being a kissogram. So I found it a bit unrealistic from that point of view. And she doesn't, I don't know. But then again, from her character specifically, it's okay. I don't think it was too distasteful, though. I mean, the only bit that was a little bit close was when they followed up with, like you said, weren't you a nurse? And then something like, weren't you a nun as well, or something like that. So you can tell she's got all these different sort of sexy little costumes and stuff. But I don't know. It's I think it's okay. But there are certainly worse and more close to the knuckle things to come from Moffat's writing, for sure. Yeah.
I do also think, although, I probably would have preferred it if she'd, had a different job, just because it's Doctor Who. But no, it's not too bad. But there is also, it does slightly round her character, because not the kissogram side particularly, but you do get the feeling that everybody in the village knows Amy. So her character already feels quite rounded, because she's going around and everybody knows she's, got this raggedy doctor that she bangs on about. There's a bit where she shuts the doctor's tie in that old man's door, and he's like, "Amy, I will need that car back." And so you already feel like she's quite well known in this tiny little village, which helps to make her character feel quite real, doesn't it? You know what I mean? Because everybody seems to know, oh, it's Amy. Yeah, she's a bit, she's a bit off the wall, is Amy, sort of thing. You just get that feeling that she's very well known in the village. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason,
Regia. Yeah, and the same with, it feels like it's a close-knit little place, doesn't it? And
I'd love to go there. It looks a really nice little place, actually.
Yeah, where is it? I can't remember.
I think the duck pond's fake as well. I think I only discovered that about a year ago. I was like, the duck pond is fake? Why is that? Yeah, I think they probably put that in just for that line.
Oh, okay.
Why are there no ducks in the duck pond? We never found out.
We never found out, did we? No.
What did you think of the Sherlock moment? The bit where the doctor's, I missed it. What did I miss? And we'd get this weird sort of, probably quite expensive at the time, camera shot, tracking shot across the field of the different people. See, I really loved it at the time. I was slightly worried it was going to be a thing that the Doctor did every week. I don't know why. I was like, oh, is this the Doctor's new thing now? But I'm glad they only used it the once, because it's just to show what's going on in the Doctor's mind, isn't it? That he's looking for all the different characters to see what he's missed. And I thought that was a really interesting thing to do.
Yeah, I think it was well executed anyway. It looked pretty cool.
Yeah.
The only thing is, though, it's probably quite expensive to do in terms of time.
Oh, I wouldn't want it every week. It'd drive me crackers.
Yeah, but from a production point of view, it's probably... So maybe it was... I don't know this at all, but maybe it was something that they dipped their toe in the water. Like, is this a thing that we could do for Matt Doctor? The whole Sherlock thing, like you said.
It feels very Sherlock to me.
Yeah. So I'm glad they didn't do it. But it is a cool little thing just to insert into this one story. But I feel like having to do that regularly throughout the series, it would have just, been a nightmare to try and weave it in somehow into each story. So it's kind of cool, but yeah.
It's another thing that makes me feel like it's Moffat putting his stamp on it as well. He's like doing something that's very Moffat. Well, we wouldn't have known it then, but now I look at it and think that is such a Moffat-y thing to do. It's such a Sherlock-y thing to do. So, I really like that scene. I really like the bit. Because actually, it's Rory that he ends up, is the thing that he's missed, isn't it? Because Rory's the only one not looking at the sky or something. So that then brings Rory into it. And I thought, that's a nice it's a nice way to bring Rory into the story. And he gets his feelings immediately hurt, doesn't he? He's like, oh no, hey, we've been with that good-looking chap. And he's like, oh, him.
Oh, here we go. Yeah.
So again, already I'm smiling just at scenes like that, and it's very simple but fun writing, isn't it?
Yeah, and he does write Rory in a very likeable way. He's got that very insecure. He feels like he's punching above his weight. Amy's obviously, he feels like, she's this beautiful angel, perfect, everything. And so anytime, so he's got insecurities around the Doctor in the first place. And then you add on this good-looking chap with the laptop. And that's a really cool, funny scene where the Doctor runs back to use his laptop. And he runs in and he's obviously looking at something that's a bit untoward. And then you think that's it done with. And then when the Doctor's about to leave, he's like, oh, by the way, delete your browser history, by the way. Not good. And the Doctor's off. It's really cool little things like that the Moff does.
And the Patrick Moore bit.
Oh, the Patrick Moore.
It's like, behave yourself, Patrick, you devil. Yeah. Brilliant. He's actually in it as well, isn't he?
Yeah. Some cool little bits like that. Just quickly, what did you think to some of the... what's the best way to describe it? The very Doctor Who-y bits in this. So we have a new TARDIS interior. We have a new sonic screwdriver. Yeah. And obviously Matt's new, for this point anyway, costume at the very end and stuff. So it's always cool when these regeneration episodes, isn't it, where you get into some new stuff, and it kicks off with the cloister bell early on, doesn't it? And he's like, oh no, and he has to run in because he thinks something's going to break, and then he's off. But then when we get the reveal at the end of Matt's interior TARDIS and stuff, it's all very sort of wide-eyed and amazing, and it's cool. And then his little Sonic pops up, and he's like,
oh, that sound effect is gorgeous.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah.
So it's really cool, isn't it? A bit like that, and it's the first time that we see. I think anyway, it's the first time that we see the St. John's. Is it the first time we see that?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Well, since it came back, yeah.
I think it's since a particular story. Since the War Machines, in fact. It's the first time we've seen the St. John's ambulance. Wow. Yeah, on the exterior. Yeah, so I quite like Matt's TARDIS. They changed the colour of it very slightly from Tennant and Eccleston's one, didn't they? I'm sure they made it a slightly deeper, richer blue colour than previously. But it does look pretty cool. The interior is not bad.
Yeah, I was so excited, like the first time I watched this for the reveal, because I'd seen the odd photo of the TARDIS before the series aired. So there was a bit of the fans were going crazy really because the St. John's ambulance badge was back. I mean, it seems mad that was such a big thing, but it was. I remember it was all like, oh, Moffat's put the badge back on the TARDIS, and it looks all blue and chunky, and oh, he's got a new TARDIS, and it was quite a big thing. So I was really excited to see it on screen, when this first aired. And it's a beautiful tracking shot, isn't it? When we first get to see that TARDIS, it looks glorious. It looks really chunky, and the windows are different from the previous one, and it's got the badge on, and you're like, oh, this is great. And then I'm thinking, oh, we haven't seen inside yet. What's it going to be like? And they really hold off as well. Like Amy goes in, and I remember like, come on, show us, like almost screaming at the TV the first time I watched this, because I was desperate to see the inside of the TARDIS. And you don't really get to see that much in this one. They really sort of hold back, but I think it looks good. I've never been a massive fan of Matt's interior, I'll be honest. It's not one of my favourites. I definitely prefer Tennant's and Eccleston's. But looking at it again yesterday, it kind of suits Matt. It's a bit steampunk, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which is not my sort of thing, but I kind of think it suits Matt's Doctor. And a bit like the intro, it's grown on me over the years. So when it was first, when I first saw it on screen, I was a bit like, oh, I don't know. It's very orange and red, and I don't know if I like it. But it's definitely grown on me over the years. I love the bit where the Sonic pops up as well. Matt gets his own Sonic. Again, that gave me chills yesterday watching that. I was like, oh, yes, he gets his Sonic at the end. I've forgotten about that. So, yeah, I think it looks good. And I do love the big circly thing on the roof, which I'm sure must be a hark back to Hartnell's, that funny thing that was in Hartnell's TARDIS, which was only in a few episodes before they decided they couldn't be bothered to hang that big lampshade up anymore. But yeah, it's lovely. I mean, that does look really nice on the ceiling of the TARDIS. So it's grown on me. I do like it.
Yeah, no, I think it's cool. I wouldn't say it's my favourite TARDIS interior, but it's not bad though. It's pretty cool. I do like the whole, because Tennant and Eccleston's one was very grungy, wasn't it? It was quite organic, very grungy, and then this one they've I think their design decisions, they've kept it to a degree. So you've got all like the kitchen taps on the TARDIS and like some pipe work. It's quite steampunk. It does look a little bit sort of worn and grungy in places, but then the floor and the walls and the ceiling and the lighting, it's all very shiny, isn't it? It's a bit more sort of typical sci-fi spaceshipy to a degree. So yeah, it's not too bad, but
I love the monitor as well. It reminds me a bit of the Eighth Doctor's monitor, you know, that sort of old-fashioned.
Oh, yeah.
It's got like a brown leather around it.
Yeah.
It looks really old-fashioned. I like that.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
So yeah, I think the unveiling of it is really well done, and it's a nice moment when we finally get to go inside.
Yes, no, it's cool. Yeah. Rightio, I don't have anything else on my notes, dude. I just want to say, just very lastly, the music, again, is just awesome. And there were two things that were awesome. The theme that we've spoken about, but also there's this little music cue that happens anytime we see the crack in the wall.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. It's just a really foreboding.
Yeah, it's like a little thud with like a little bass note and stuff.
Love it.
Love that stuff, because it really sets the tone for that foreboding, like something bigger is at play.
Yes.
We're not just... The Doctor isn't just dealing with patient zero and then everything's fine and dandy. You can tell that there's and also we get the thing around the silence, and patient zero actually telling us that something is afoot. But that music does bring on that sense of, oh crap, something bigger is about to kick off. So yeah, just want to say, the music again, and that's what I miss about Jodie's era. I miss these big themes, because although Segan's music is very atmospheric and it's very nice and stuff, sometimes these Murray Gold themes and these, I don't know, I just think I miss that at times.
No, absolutely. I mean, watching this the whole time yesterday, all I wanted to do was go and put the soundtrack on when it finished. I was like, the music in it is stunning. And just to sort of wrap up really, I don't know, did you watch the Next Time trailer at the end of it?
I did. Yes.
Flipping heck.
Great, wasn't it? Yeah.
It's, I mean, again, I don't know, I wouldn't have watched that trailer for years, but just watching that, and I mean, these are episodes I've seen over and over again, but watching that trailer, it is thrilling. It's absolutely thrilling, and I can't remember, but at the time I must have watched that and been like, full of absolute excitement for what was going to come in Series 5, because it is phenomenal, actually, and it does highlight, actually, some really great stuff that I think perhaps, I myself have overlooked over the years. It's some really good stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
In the Moffat era. It's very rewarding to go back to, which is good. I think a lot of it is very rewatchable, which at the time, perhaps things that confused me, like the arcs and everything like that, it has paid off for the most part, I think, rewatching it.
I think it got a bit out of hand as we get into, especially Series 7 for me. But definitely, man, Series 5, it's we're big fans. We make no bones about that. Series 5 is a very good series, isn't it, of Modern Who?
I really like it. Yeah, I mean, watching that Next Time trailer just made me want to watch the rest. Even, I mean, I very rarely watch The Beast Below, and I get the feeling that could be a In the Mood for episode. I know it's not the best, but I really felt like carrying on. I could have quite easily watched the rest. Yeah.
No, agreed, dude. Defo agreed. Okie dokie. Right, let's get on to scores then. I think it's me to go first.
Yeah, it's you first.
Yeah, I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10.
Cool. I'm the same, mate. I think there's a real magical feel, a real sort of, I wouldn't say fairy tale, but there's a sort of magical feel to this episode. And Moffat's 100% put his stamp on it in a really good way. Cracking start to Matt's era. Yeah, yes. 9 out of 10.
Yep, defo did. Agreed. Okie dokie. What did our lovely listeners think to this one then? We are going to kick straight off with our first review. This is TARDISnet 66.
I think the 11th Hour is the best series opener since the series first returned in 2005. I would say it's my personal third favourite post-regeneration story, just behind Power of the Daleks and Spearhead from Space. I think Matt Smith is one of the few Doctors who found himself immediately with wonderful childlike wonder and joy, also a great sense of age and intellect, as in this episode he is one step ahead of the enemy and inspires others to be the best they can be. The way the story introduces Amy is truly genius and very clever. I feel invested in her character immediately, with the Doctor as her imaginary friend, having suffered through the psychological damage of waiting for the Doctor for all these years, and it creates immediate sense of familiarity with Amy, Rory, and the Doctor, and it creates a concise and focused storyline on one of the most unique Doctor and companion relationships. This is a real magical story. I think the villain is very disposable, but it really is one of the best launching pads for a series. I remember watching this when I was 10 for the first time, and it simply got better. I give it a 9.5 out of 10.
9.5?
9.5.
Crikey Moses, that's a good score, dude. Yeah, and you're right, it's a very unique... I know all the relationships between Doctor and companions are unique, but this one is a very unique in the fact that because Amy and Rory are a couple, that does throw a different spin on what's going on, because other than some other little relationships that have happened in prior, Doctor Who, even Ian and Barbara, some people think they're a couple and they're not. It's weird, isn't it? So
I'm just laughing at Rory when Amy introduces him. She's like, "This is my friend." He's like, "Well, boyfriend."
Well, boyfriend, actually,
she wasn't so keen to add the beginning bit.
Yeah, she's quite dismissive. Yeah, it's cool. Thank you very much, TARDISnet. A 9.5, wicked. Right, this is Simon Hodgson.
Hello, Gary and Adam. So, for my quick review of the 11th Hour, I'm a very big fan of this. It's one that is really good, more or less from the start, with very few, if any, disappointments going forward. We even get a brand spanking new title sequence and theme, which, although is pretty good, I'm still a sucker for the original Series 1 from 2005 myself, but it is pretty good. As far as opening stories go, it's a very entertaining hour or so that has many iconic things included. The fish fingers and custard scene, which probably most people would remember. The iconic quotes of "bow ties are cool," and "I'm definitely a madman with a box." And for me, the best of all, the "I am the Doctor" theme that would play throughout the whole of Series 5 going forward. But yeah, the plot itself isn't too complicated. I did like the CGI on the Prisoner Zero in its snake form when it changed, which was pretty good for the time. But for me, I think the biggest success of this story is the introduction of Amelia, or Amy Pond, and the memorable dialogue between the two in more or less every scene with the Doctor. And obviously the scene with Amy Pond in a police uniform as well. Rory at this stage seems to be a bit of a clone of Mickey in terms of characterisation, like he was with Rose. But again, he's a likeable character at this stage. We even get a brand spanking new TARDIS interior. They're clearly going through a completely new start in all forms, but which I guess is normally the case with any new Doctor to settle him in and all that. All in all then, I think it's a fine introduction to Series 5 and one of the best episodes of New Who to grace our screens. So I'll give it a solid 9 bow ties out of 10. Cheers!
9 bow ties.
Bow ties are cool.
Yeah.
A solid 9.
There's a lot of great quotes in it, actually, isn't there?
There is actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a solid 9 from Simon. That's pretty cool. And you're right, yeah, it's a great start. I think we can all agree it's a great start to a new Doctor, a new series and stuff. So, yeah, thank you very much, Simon. Moving on, this is Sammy Satine from Down Under.
Hey, Gary and Adam, Sammy Satine here. So, dun 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 dun. The 11th Hour. This is just brilliant, isn't it? From start to finish. I love little Amelia with her little suitcase, nightdress, gumboots, etc. She's marvellous. I love the bit in the kitchen where the Doctor is trying different foods. I have tried fish fingers and custard. I loved it. I really didn't expect to. There you go. Matt is brilliant. Right from the first second. I watched this just before the 50th when I did a marathon of Series 5 to 7 because I hadn't seen it. I'd only ever experienced David as a Doctor, and even though I'd seen Chris by that point, I still found the end of time hard to get over. That story still makes me an absolute mess. I give it 10 Prisoner Zeros out of 10. See ya.
10.
Maximum scores.
Question,
from Sammy.
Have you ever tried fish fingers and custard?
I haven't. No, have you?
No.
Can't say it's appealed.
I don't know. I like both, but would I like them together? Don't know. Have to try that one day.
Yeah. I can see. I mean, it looks. Watching Matt Smith tuck into it does look cool, but yeah, not sure. Rightio, moving on. Thank you very much, Sammy. Moving on. This is Seb Lane.
Hello, Gary and Adam. I hope you're well. So this week it is the 11th hour. Now, this story has a special place in my heart because I believe it was the first ever Doctor Who story I watched go live back in, when was it, 2010 on broadcast. So I was quite young at the time. I was about, 5, 6, I'm not sure. But honestly, I love this story so much. It's a brilliant example of a good post-regeneration story. Matt Smith is brilliant in it, and it does set up Series 5, which is my favourite modern series. It's got this big fairy tale feel to it, which I just love, and it's so warm and comforting, and I just really, really enjoy it. So I'm glad it was the first story I properly watched, and it got me into the show. So I have to give it praise in that regard, and I hope you all enjoy it as well. So thanks, guys, and I'll see you next week, whenever that may be. Well, next week. It'll be next week, hopefully.
I can confirm it'll be next week.
Can confirm, yes. Rightio, thank you very much, Seb. Another decent score, dude. They're rocking and rolling on this one. Yep.
Did they give it a score, did they?
Well, no, just,
Oh, a decent yes, loving it.
Decent review, yeah. Yeah, rocking and rolling, yeah. Thank you very much, Seb. Moving on, this is Neil Campbell.
What about you fellas? Hope you're well. So the 11th hour, I'll get straight to it. I love Series 5. I think it's brilliant. And I think the introduction of Matt Smith's Doctor in that story is just superb. It is fantastically written. It is fantastically directed. It just made such a good impression. So much that when I think of 2010, which was like in my own personal life, was like a really, really fun time. I always think of Series 5 and specifically the 11th hour. And I remember racing home from the Portadown match that day of football to make sure I was back home in time for that. And my mate even watched it as well, and he loved it, and I just loved that story and everything about it, like even the soundtrack for Murray Gold and stuff. It was outstanding. And you see that opening scene where the TARDIS is flying over London and, he narrowly misses Big Ben and stuff. I think that's brilliant, and I love the new theme tune as well. And then the scene where it has the flashback of all the other Doctors and all monsters like the Sea Devils and all, I thought it really helped cement Matt Smith, who put in a great performance, as did Karen Gillan as Amy Pond. It was outstanding. For me, bar the Spearhead from Space, it's the strongest opening story for a Doctor. So in that case, definitely for the new series anyway then. But I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Cheers.
Another 9.
Score, yes.
Yeah. So other than Spearhead, the strongest opener, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, totally. Yeah, nice one, Neil. Thank you very much, dude. And lastly, this is Mr. Joe Turner.
The 11th hour is one of the best introductions to a Doctor ever. I love how the whole show has been reinvigorated and feels fresh and incredibly different to the Tennant era, with a magical and fairy tale vibe to it. The episode has such a quick pace to it as well, which keeps the viewers interested in the story, and the supporting cast all fantastic. Even Olivia Colman's in it, and especially Jeff, who still to this day has one of the best scenes in Who, where Matt steals his computer and he says, "Get a girlfriend, Jeff." What was he watching is the real question. But anyway, the corner of your eye stuff is terrifying, and what a cool concept it is. It's so eerie. Prisoner Zero is great, the voice is intimidating and assertive, and the crack in the wall scene where the Doctor opens it to reveal Prisoner Zero's cell works so well, and I love how he grabs Amelia's hand and reassures her that everything is fine. It's for me the first sign that Matt is now the Doctor and he's making the character his own. The humour lands outstandingly well. The music score is fantastic, especially because it's the introduction of I Am the Doctor. And the flashback scene of all the Doctors and the dialogue and the music supporting it makes it one of the best scenes in Doctor Who ever. And when Matt steps forward with his new costume and bow tie and says, "Hello, I'm the Doctor," basically run, you know Matt is here to stay. So overall, I'm going to give this episode a 10 out of 10. It's flawless, it's top tier Doctor Who, it's outstanding. I just love it. Thank you.
Joe loving it, yeah.
Another maximum score.
That is a scene in it. Basically, run. Oh,
just
shivers.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Love it, dude. Cool. Well, I knew this would score really well. I could see that coming. Unlike what we did last week, which is really weird because I thought Logopolis was going to be scored really well, and it ended up being not so much, which is weird. But
not so much love for Logopolis.
Yeah. So, okay, what did our listeners think over on the socials then? I'm going to rattle through these because there was loads. It's a popular story.
Yes.
So, Doctor Who Home said, happy memories of this one, from that fantastic open to the memorable reveal of 11 in Amelia's garden. I think I was 7 when this dropped, and can safely say before this I wasn't a fan of the idea of a new Doctor. Safe to say Matt won me over in seconds. A 10 out of 10.
Cool.
Josh van der Slees, one for the first story. It's an excellent one from Smith's era, as it does something that no other story has, where the Doctor doesn't have the TARDIS or the Sonic to depend on.
Yeah.
Excellent acting from everyone. 9 fish fingers in custard out of 10. Vincent Blonde 1 says, maybe I'm biased because 11 is my fave Doctor, but this one is one of the best episodes of Who. Everybody doing their best work from the start. 11 out of 10. Chippy T, brilliant start to Matt's run. Surely it's impossible to fit all this into anything less than 2 parts. The interplay between them is so good you would think they had been travelling for years. When Who is this good, it's imperious. 10 out of 10.
10, yeah.
Brighter Moon, Neil, how you doing, buddy? In my top 5 of all-time fave episodes of Who, and very likely the finest intro to a new Doctor. Everything about this feels new and fresh, from the cinematography, the music, and of course Matt Smith. He's absolutely fantastic. This is fantastic Who. Thomas Meehan, one of my fave episodes and a perfect start for Matt Smith. This episode made me become a Whovian. I love the fairy tale feel Series 5 has, and it made me fall in love with the 11th Doctor, and River Song when she returned in the Angels 2-parter. Okay. The Stylish One, it's a nice Twitter name. A great intro episode for 11, the Moffat era, and even for a new fan. The pacing is tight and never lets the story drag, while lots of plot is actually pretty great too. The side characters are all amusing in their own way, and Smith nails it as the Doctor for me. Our writer Jordan says, must be the only person who isn't a massive fan of this one.
Jordan, wash your mouth out.
Jordan says it's good, don't get me wrong, but I didn't see in it what everyone else does. Matt Smith and Karen Gillan are great, as is Arthur Darvill, but the monsters are lacking and it feels quite rushed towards the end. Just good. Okay.
Sack him, Gary. Sack him.
At Last Living Yeti says the best new Doctor Who story in the show's history. Sarah Louise, a running Whovian, says, I started this episode thinking, who's this Matt Smith fella then? And ending it thinking he's my favourite new Doctor Who. A brilliant intro to Raggedy Man, Rory and Amy. I loved the corner of the eye perception filter concept and the many references to stories yet to come. 9 out of 10.
Yes, nice one, Sarah.
Tom at Titan Sci-Fi says, one of the best openers for a regen story and start of a new era. A clever introduction for Amy. Love all the guest stars. 8 out of 10. Edward Galooly, probably the best of Matt's era. It's different and exciting from the first act and has a fairy tale feel to it. Matt is superb, as always, even if Prisoner's era is a bit weak. 9 out of 10. Lost on Gallifrey podcast. A lot of comments already, so I'll keep it short and sweet. One of the very best. I absolutely adore every second. 10 out of 10. Nice. Dan Johnson, such a brilliant start to a new era that made me forget any doubts. It's the best post-regen story that new showrunners will always try and replicate, so I feel I have to give it a 10 out of 10. And lastly, Tin and Sonic says, Smith took the role and made it his own in one episode. It's an instant. He was the Doctor and remains my favourite of New Who to this day. The story was great, intro to Amy was magical, and it set the bar for what I consider New Who's best series. 10 out of 10.
Brilliant.
Another 10, love it. Dan Pinn says, a wonderful intro to the 11th Doctor. Matt Smith hits the ground running with no other actor to play the Doctor. The confrontation scene with the Atraxi when Matt steps through the hologram and his previous selves dressed in tweed and bow tie, absolute perfection. 10 out of 10. We forgot to mention that scene. It is very cool when he's on the roof and we have all the images of the past Doctors.
Yeah,
and he steps through. Brilliant.
He steps through, yeah.
I'm just going to read a quick email review. This is from the Wandering Slovene. That we have those three guys there. The first one, Sam, says, Moffat manages to balance so many aspects in this episode in such a triumphant way. He has to introduce a new Doctor and he excels. Matt knows where that there were going to be new fans, so he doesn't just introduce Matt's Doctor, he introduces the Doctor. He does it in a way that brings new fans up to speed and brings pre-existing fans in a new sense of mystery about the Doctor. And Sam goes on to give it 9 fish fingers and custard out of 10. Joe says 11th Hour is a pretty good story. Matt Smith does a terrific job as the Doctor, and Rory and Amy are good as well. I thought the idea of Prison Zero was cool. Sadly, the look wasn't quite as brilliant. The big eye is just a big eye, and the rest of the story is great. The ending is a bit meh, with the Doctor telling them he is the Doctor and not having a plan, but that doesn't really matter. 8 out of 10. And Raf says the 11th Hour is probably Matt Smith's best story, setting up the main features of his era in a smooth and cohesive way. The 11th Doctor is instantly lovable, with his over-the-top manner and impeccable dress sense. In terms of setting up companions, it explores the effects of meeting the Doctor as a child really effectively. And then Raf goes on to give it a 7 out of 10.
Cool.
So thank you very much, guys, for emailing that in. And lastly, a few over on Facebook. Jeff Waddle says, still my fave intro story to a new Doctor, and bar a few minor tweaks required, it's nigh on perfect. Matt is the perfect combo of eccentric/serious, and the whole show seems to have been given a fresh new look and feel. Completely nailed it right from the start. 10 out of 10.
Nice.
Mark Hugill says, I really wasn't looking forward to rewatching this, as I'm not a Matt Smith fan at all. However, I was pleasantly surprised. Ignoring the dated CGI of Prisoner Zero and the awful sequence of the TARDIS flying through the sky out of control, this had some positive points for me. Scary moments with Prisoner Zero and its human forms, and the gigantic eye through the crack in the wall. Goes on to give it an 8 out of 10. Toby Coleman, the story that got me into Who, and one of my most rewatched stories. I adore it, from the fairy tale vibe to the wonderful performances. Even I Am the Doctor, which became overplayed, is still fresh and exciting. Toby goes on to give it a 9.5. Charlie Turner says, it's safe to say that when Moff was the showrunner after Davis left, he started with a bang, literally via the TARDIS exploding to start what I like to call the fairy tale series. The only downside is the CGI. It goes on to give it a 10 out of 10. Crikey. Last couple, Baz Warrington. It's a hard task to introduce a new Doctor and a new villain within the confines of one episode, but I think Moff just about pulls it off. It helps that Matt Smith hits the ground running with a superb performance. I don't think there has been an actor that has made such an impact since Tom in Robot. It goes on to give it an 8 out of 10. And lastly, Joseph Howarth says, I'm surprised I didn't watch the rest of Matt's run after this episode. I don't know why I stopped at the 11th Hour when it first aired. I just did, and it wouldn't be until Peter Capaldi became the Doctor I got back into Doctor Who for real. Anyways, this was a terrific start to Matt's era, and it still holds up after 11 years. And Joseph goes on to give it a 9 out of 10. Some long ones there over on Facebook, but whew. I
knew it'd be popular, this one.
Yeah, some great reviews there. As always, I'd love to read them all out in full. But you guys, you do like to go into some detail, which is fantastic, but we just can't read them all out on the podcast. But overall, dude, I'm pretty sure this is a 9.5 average.
Yeah, I'm really pleased, actually, because it's great. I love to hear Matt getting some love, because I just think he's such a cool Doctor. And I think Moffat should be proud of this one. You know, he may not have got everything right, but man, I think he should be proud of this story. It's a belter. Yeah, dude, defo. Absolutely, we love this one, don't we? Rightio. What have we got next week, bud? What we reviewing next week? Next week, we're diving back to the Sarah Jane Adventures with the penultimate story, dude. We've only got 2 left, 2 stories. So it's the Curse of Clyde Langer next week. Clyde, what's going to happen to Clyde? Yeah, okay. Curse of Clyde Langer. Yes. I must admit, I'm looking forward to seeing those guys. We've had a bit of a break, haven't we? So, indeed, yeah. Okay, right, well, on that then, let's wrap for 310. Alrighty. Thank you so much for coming back and listening to another episode of the Big Blue Box podcast. And if you're not coming back, this is your first time listening to us, then welcome aboard the TARDIS. It's great to have you here. Next week, as Adam said, we're going to be diving back into the Sarah Jane Adventures with the Curse of Clyde Langer. So get your DVDs or Blu-rays out for that and give that a watch, because we'll be asking for your thoughts and reviews as always, which is a really cool part of the show. Thank you to everyone that's taken the time to do your audio reviews or get in touch on the socials. It's all good. Thank you so much. In the meantime, before next week, remember to follow us and listen for free on whatever podcast app
you currently listen to your podcasts on. You'll find us on there. We'd love to have you as a follower. That way you won't miss a show when it lands every Friday. And if your app of choice allows you to leave a review, if you could take a minute to do that, that would be awesome. We'd really appreciate that because it helps us out loads. And thank you so much to those of you that have left reviews thus far. Thank you very much. Remember to check out the website, bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can listen to all of these shows on there for free as well. Plus, we have a load of articles and reviews that go out from our writing team, so check those out. Maria, Jordan and Mark putting out some really cool stuff over there. We're on the socials too, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Links on the website, or do a search for us. We chat Doctor Who throughout the week, so come and get involved there. And we have a free Discord server. There's a link on the website. Come and sign up. And chat Doctor Who with some other Doctor Who fans. It's all good. Also, we can't forget. We cannot forget. Come on, it's the YouTube channel that has all of the geek stuff. No lie, it is the Geek's Handbag.
Yes, that's my channel. Go and have a look and give me a what's the correct term now? Follow?
No, on YouTube it's still subscribe.
Subscribe.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So go and subscribe to Adam's channel. Tons of really cool videos over there. Go and check it out. And Adam is on the socials too under the same name, The Geek's Handbag. So go and give him a like and a follow over there. Rightio. Until next week. My name's Gary.
Before you forgot your name. My name's Adam.
I did forget my name. And remember, Allons-y.